there's millions of different things that you could do to teach coding to your kids, but some of my favorites, two favorites actually, which is the PBS Kids Scratch Junior app and then code.org. So that's what we're going to be diving into a little bit today. Nikki, do you want to introduce yourself, or do you know everybody?
Yeah, there's some new friends on here today that I haven't met yet. My name's Nikki Bradenburg. I'm the Director of Education at Montana PBS. And so, but before this, I was an elementary teacher for about 16 years. And then I got the fun opportunity to step into this role. And I mostly lead professional development for teachers focused on technology integration and media literacy. And I started this Media Lab series because I desperately missed working with teachers in their classrooms, helping them do these kinds of projects. Before the pandemic, I went to classrooms and I worked with teachers in their classrooms and I showed them how to do things. And a lot of it was things one tool at a time, just sitting down with them and doing one tool at a time. And then I was trying to figure out how to get that back. But also to utilize some of the amazing teachers that I've met since I've started this role and even before, and Tracy is one of them. So I'm really excited to have this series, and we've met some great teachers and we've had some repeat people come every week, and we're going to do this for as long as it takes tonight. And then we'll do a prize giveaway. We'll give away a Google Home, I think is the prize for tonight. And then I will email everybody your OPI credits. I am going to give you an attendance survey in just a little bit. I wanted to wait till everybody was here before I drop that in the chat. And the attendance survey is important because that is how I have your email tomorrow, so that I can send you your OPI credits. And that way you will get credit for being here if you want it. And it's also how I can mail you a little swag bag and mail you any prizes that you might earn tonight. So I'll give it back to you, Tracy.
Great. Nikki and PBS are awesome with goodies. They send so many great things. So my name is Tracy Piltz. I am in Billings. I work for Billings Public Schools. I taught kindergarten for many, many years, which is how Nikki and I first met. We were both teaching kindergarten at the same time and connected via Twitter. Now I work for our district as a tech integration specialist. I work mostly with our kindergarten through about third grade teachers and students, just helping them learn how to utilize technology in meaningful ways in their classrooms. I am also a PBS Kids Early Learning Champion and media literacy certified educator. And I've been working with code.org as a code.org facilitator for a few years now too. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that in just a second, my coding journey, I suppose. This slide I think is super helpful because it really outlines all of these Media Lab workshops that Nikki has coordinated. What's awesome is if you visit the website, that montanapbs.org/media lab, she and her team have been so amazing about getting these recordings up right away. So when you scroll through the site, you'll see what's coming up next time, but then you can also really easily click on the recordings from these past workshops. So I kept these up here if you want to learn about stop motion or iMovie for Mac or green screen. It's super easy to get on the website and watch those recordings. So I think this is just a great hub so that you can access learning for all of these things. And then super excited at these upcoming workshops. So, and I don't know if Nikki mentioned it, but once you register for one, you automatically are registered for all. So then you'll just get those links each week and you can join if you can. So today, sort of our workshop, our agenda that we're going to work through is we're going to talk a little bit about coding and why it's important to teach our kids to code. We're going to spend a little bit of time in code.org. We'll spend a little bit more time probably in PBS Kids Scratch Junior. I want to show a few classroom examples, and then I'm going to give you a chunk of time where you can just kind of explore on your own while Nikki and I are here for support, and then we'll sort of reconvene, share out maybe things that you created or questions that you have, and then have prize time and be done. So hopefully, we'll get done a little bit earlier than what's allotted, but still have time to go through all of these wonderful tools and get questions that you have answered. Sorry, I should have flipped my phone over. I'm on a group thread for softball that's blowing up right now. So it's distracting me. So I'm gonna flip that over so I don't see that lighting up anymore. So before we begin, I'm gonna go ahead and share this video. I took a class from Carrie, is it Wardle? Is that how you say her name? Nikki Wardle from Idaho PBS, all about PBS Kids Scratch Junior. And she shared this wonderful video that I really like. So I'm going to take a moment to play this for you right now. Just what is coding? Try to make it bigger.
Coding is the new literacy. When we think about reading and writing, we think about words on a written page, but coding is the language that computers speak in.
The way we define coding is creating a series of instructions that tells a computer or another piece of technology what to do.
Gosh, when we think about computer coding, we think about people sitting somewhere in a dark room in front of a great big monitor, and they know this secret language that no one else knows except them. But what I've learned with PBS Kids Scratch Junior is that everyone can code. It's a language that we can all learn and that we can all speak.
It's not a bunch of zeros and ones. It's not even really an unfamiliar language. There's a lot of easy ways that you can implement it in the classroom.
When you use PBS Kids Scratch Junior app on your mobile device, each of those blocks do a different thing. You're putting them together in a sequence, and you're creating anything that you want to create.
Educators do not need to be proficient in coding to teach kids to use this app.
Teachers are able to very quickly understand how to use it as a learning tool in their classroom. And really and truly, if the teacher gives the kid the go-ahead, the students are going to be able to teach the teacher.
That's true about so many things, isn't it? They end up teaching us. Make sure and pause that. Okay, I've got a little Jamboard right here, and I'm going to grab this link and I'll drop it into the chat. If you haven't used Jamboard before, it's a really great collaborative whiteboard real-time tool. I'm going to go ahead and drop this so that you all should have this link. I'd love it if you click on there and share some ideas on why coding or why computer science in our classrooms. If you haven't used Jamboard, this little, like the square with the lines on it are little sticky notes. And so it's super easy to just open up a sticky note and jot your idea down on there, and it will automatically update this in real time with your ideas. So go ahead, hop on that Jamboard. If you have ideas for why coding, why teach our kids to code, drop it on there with a sticky note. While you're doing that, I'll just kind of share with you a little bit about my own experience with computer science and coding. I love what Erin in that video said about educators don't have to be computer scientists in order to teach coding to their kids. I know that as a classroom teacher in kindergarten, I was super reluctant to teach this to my kindergartners. And it wasn't about them, it was about me. I felt like I wasn't prepared. I didn't understand what coding was. And so I just felt really nervous about teaching them something that I knew so little about. I was in a teacher professional development group called Tilt when I taught kindergarten, and the leader of our group, her name is Desiree Caskey, and she's amazing. And Tilt goes for 3 years, and we meet several times each year. And every time on her agenda, she would say coding, and our whole group would be like, oh, let's do that next time. Let's do that next time. And literally for 3 years, we pushed it to next time. And when we finally got to the end of that, she's like, okay, okay, no, you guys are not going to be done with until you actually spend some time coding. And she, introduced us to some wonderful tools and apps in such a friendly way and really encouraged us to just give it a go. You don't have to know everything. It's okay. Code.org's principle is that we as teachers are lead learners, which means we're just leading the learning in our classroom. We're all learning together. And so when I finally got that mindset, and we explored some coding during Hour of Code, it really was apparent so quickly how important it is to introduce our students to this. Some of them had such an aptitude for it and were so drawn to it. Anytime we had free time or Fun Friday, this is what they always wanted to do. And as I'm talking, I'm looking at your wonderful answers, and it's all of these things that you guys are putting on here. You know, that expression, the creativity, I think in my mind, I wasn't thinking about it being a creative outlet, and it is such a creative outlet. The problem solving, those critical thinking skills. A couple of you, it's almost like you color coded them, the green ones. A couple of you really touched on, jobs today are requiring some sort of, coding, computer science skills. Like this is a huge, very viable career path for a lot of our kids that many of them wouldn't know about or wouldn't choose if they'd never been exposed to this. And sort of the mission behind code.org is they want every kid in every classroom to have that opportunity to experience coding, experience computer science. Because again, they don't know if it's something that they're interested in, have an aptitude for, if they've never been given the chance to try it. I think why code in elementary? And I'm kind of looking through the chat. The ones of you who dropped in here and told me, it looks like we do have a lot of elementary. We have some high school teachers as well. But why coding in elementary for me is we want to get those fundamentals in place. I use my son as an example a lot. He's a senior this year. When he got to the point where he could actually choose computer science, because we didn't teach it when he was in elementary, when he got to middle school, or when he got to high school and could pick that as an elective, he never did, because he wasn't interested, he didn't know how to do it, he knew nothing about it. That might be something that he would have really enjoyed or could have possibly been a career path for him. We'll never know because he just was so reluctant to do it because he never had those opportunities. And so I think giving all of our kids from a young age the opportunities to learn those fundamentals, so they don't pick something or not pick something just because they don't know what it is, or because they feel reluctant, like I did, to teach it, right? Because they don't know about it. I think it's just so important that we give all of them those opportunities. I love the one that just got added, says supports a trial and error learning approach. The debugging skills that you learn when coding, I think, are some of the most important skills that we can teach our kids, because we're teaching them to be critical about what they've made, to not just say, oh, that wasn't right, move on to problem number 5, right? They have to actually look at what they did, analyze, maybe where they went wrong, find that little piece where they made a mistake, fix it, and try again. So we're not giving up. It's that grit, it's that perseverance. I try to, when we write, I've seen some teachers that started calling editing debugging, right? Because you're doing the same thing when you're editing your work. You're going through and kind of debugging grammatical errors or punctuation or things like that. So yeah, I think that that trial and error that you learn in coding and computer science, that's huge. Go ahead and keep plugging away. If you come up with other thoughts or ideas or even questions, go ahead and pop those on the Jamboard. I'm going to kind of hop back over to the slides here and keep going. Maybe. There we go. It didn't want to move. So the first tool that we're going to look at is code.org. And we're not going to spend quite as much time on this one, just because this one is large and comprehensive. I'm going to give you some resources for learning more about code.org if this is something you're interested in diving deeper into. It just takes a lot more time to really dig into code.org and see all that it has to offer. So I'm going to give you a pretty brief overview and give you a few minutes to just kind of explore a little bit on your own. And then we're going to move into the PBS Kids Scratch Junior app. So code.org, have any of you used it before? Are you familiar with it? You can put in the chat, raise a hand, unmute, go ahead and share what you know. Zoom wait time is like 10 times worse than regular wait time, which is also terrible. Okay.
Hey, this is Deanna Horson. Since no one's talking, I will. How's that?
Thanks.
I actually years ago, I took their fundamentals class in Missoula, and it was awesome. It was like a one-day course, and I did it when I was teaching middle school, but then now I'm teaching third grade, and I actually used the parts that you use, like the worksheets, to learn about how to um, write the codes. And we did like the paper stuff in the games, and we did the digital version last year before we got kicked off and sent home. But it was awesome. My kids loved it.
Awesome. That's great.
But I'm
So
no means am I an expert. It was all just brand new trial stuff for me, even though I'd taken it a few years ago. So
awesome. Well, that's the way to learn. That's how I learn. I learn, I know this much, and then I just sort of dive in and see how it goes. We learn so much by doing it. So thanks for sharing that. So code.org, and it looked like most of you were pretty new to code.org. It's a completely free, comprehensive coding computer science curriculum. What I like about code.org is that it is comprehensive, that it's scaffolded. I like that it's a full curriculum for teaching coding. Our state, Montana, is in the process of trying to adopt computer science standards. We don't have any adopted yet, but you can go to the OPI website and you can see what those proposed standards are. When you look at the standards and when you look at every grade level being responsible for teaching a piece of those standards, you look at code.org, and to me, it's the perfect fit for making sure that you accomplish all of those goals that are in the standards without trying to kind of bits and piece things together. It's built for you. It's packaged already for you. Fundamentals is for our K-5 students, and that's what I'm most familiar with. I work with elementary. So fundamentals is the curriculum for K-5. They also have a discoveries and computer science principles for middle school and high school, obviously a little bit more advanced. This slide right here will give you a link to the trainings. So like Deanna had mentioned, code.org has trainings that they offer periodically. Right now, what is actually kind of nice is many of those are being offered virtually. So it just makes it a little easier for people to be able to attend. So depending on sort of what you teach and what your grade level is, you could look at this training website and get more information. You'll find that the fundamentals trainings, like Deanna was talking about, are one day. The discoveries and the principles really are very in depth. And I believe those trainings last over the course of a week. So they're really meant for teachers who are teaching computer science to their middle school and high school students, where the fundamentals, you can come for a day and sort of learn the basics of what code.org is. Right here, there's a link, to the curriculum guide. So you can kind of come in here and check out what that curriculum is. Again, the courses are broken down by grade level. So if I teach kindergarten, I could click here on course A, and it'll take me to the curriculum guide for course A. And I really like that it talks about, you know, these things here, the persistence, journaling, debugging. These are sort of those overall themes of what we're going to be doing. And then it breaks down all of the lessons. So I've got lesson 1, and you'll notice it's an unplugged activity. And that's what Deanna had referred to with the paper and pencil things. I love that code.org has built in all these unplugged types of things. So you're practicing on pieces of paper, or you're building things with objects, or you know, coding your friends, or coding cups and things like that. So it's kinesthetic, it's hands-on, it's not in front of a screen or a tablet. And they've done a really nice job of building in these unplugged activities into all of the courses. So you can go to your grade level and just kind of scroll down and really see what these lessons or activities are. If you're curious about one, I'm going to just like click on this one. It will take me to then the actual full lesson plan. And what I'm super impressed with, both with code.org and when we look at the Scratch Junior from PBS resources, is how in depth it is. Again, as a teacher who maybe doesn't feel super comfortable with coding and computer science, there are so many supports here that I can feel confident teaching this to my students. So I know what my objectives are. When I scroll down, if there's any resources I need, it will kind of show me the resources or videos that I need. It gives me goals, you know, as I'm discussing with my kids. Here are my goals. Here's what I'm trying to do. So I'm just kind of scrolling down here so you see how comprehensive these lesson plans are. If there's vocabulary, it tells me what the vocabulary is. It shows me the standards that it's aligned to, all kinds of stuff. So I can feel pretty confident in, you know, each of these activities, and I know what I'm doing. I'm going to be supportive. So the curriculum guide is super helpful. I also think if you haven't created a code.org account, and I'm going to stop talking here in a couple minutes and just give you a few minutes to explore. It's completely free. The curriculum is completely free. So you can go to code.org, you can create a free account, and you can kind of just start exploring. I'll show you that it's a little bit weird to get to a class. So I'm on my dashboard. Let's say you wouldn't have, so I have some sections right now. If you've never used it before, you're not going to see these. So you're just going to see where it says maybe find a course, this little banner right here. So if you click on find a course, let's say you teach elementary, so you're going to click here. This is goofy. I know it's super goofy. And then you teach second grade. So you're looking for course C. So you're going to come here and you're going to click on course C. You can view this course. So this is kind of a nice way of seeing actually what the kids would see. So here I am in course C, which is the second grade class. It's similar to what I was just looking at in that curriculum guide where it's walking me through all of the lessons. However, there's this little arrow right here because I'm signed in as a teacher. Right now I'm looking at it as a teacher. I could switch to viewing it as a student and hide that panel. Now I actually see what my students would see if I assigned them to this. I'm just going to click here maybe, and I would start on this first lesson. They start with these really helpful videos. So, you know, it's helpful to introduce to your kids, but then they can also be fairly independent because they all have these great videos to walk them through. And then maybe I'm going to come to the next thing here, and it's going to walk me through these puzzles. So it's got text here. I could also click to listen. It's got immersive reader built right in. So again, there's tons of supports for our kids. And it just wants me to drag the blocks, and then I'm going to click run to see what happens. So I want the bird, the angry bird, to get over here to the pig, right? So when run, I'm going to move forward. I'm just clicking them and I'm going to hit run and see what happens. Okay, how can you not giggle a little bit when you hear that? It makes me giggle every time. You want headphones, make sure you have headphones, and then I would hit continue. So you see how you could then, as a teacher, view this as a student and hop around and look at the things that your kids would be doing. Some teachers just learn it as they go with the kids. Sometimes they want to preview and figure these things out beforehand. And then I could switch back to my teacher view if I wanted to look, go back to my teacher view. I've got to get back into the lesson. I could switch then back to my teacher view. And again, I could look at those, actual lesson plans and that kind of thing. So I'm just gonna stop talking for maybe like 5 minutes and just give you a little bit of time. If you have a code.org account, kind of go in there, maybe search for your grade level and click around a little bit. If you want to do a puzzle or two, you can do a puzzle or two, just to kind of click around and let me know what sort of questions that you have. I'm going to remind you again, there's a link here where it says sign up for professional learning, and you click join us. You can search on a map for learning experiences near you. So as you kind of click around and learn a little bit more, if it's something that you're interested in and you really want to spend a little more time, again, the fundamentals would be a 6-hour training to learn a little bit more about it. So if it's something you want to dig into deeper, I would definitely check out this training page. So I'm just going to give you like 5 minutes to just kind of hop into code.org, click around, and let me know what questions come up as you're sort of clicking around.
Tracy, I have a question. Sorry, last
No,
minute. So when you're giving these lessons to your students, is it best to start at lesson 1? Does it kind of build on one another, or are they all different and you kind of can learn from lesson to lesson?
Good question. Nope. I would start. So if you're teaching 2nd grade, I would just start at lesson 1 of the course. If there was a really particular thing that tied into something else that you were doing and you wanted to highlight it, not like you can't do that. But what I really like about it is, like, when I first started my kids with coding and computer science, I felt like I was, oh, we're going to do Codable, and then we're going to do this, then we're going to do that. We're going to do this next thing. And I felt like I was jumping around so much that I really liked the linear, scaffolded, like we just start here and then you could work through. Some people ask, and I think it really all depends again on your intention, the amount of time you can use it. Do we keep all the kids sort of on the same lesson, or do I let them just go? Because some of them obviously are going to work through it faster than others. You can't really, here's one thing that's kind of weird. Let's see if I have this screen still open. Everything is unlocked. So like if I assign my students, I'm going to try to open one real fast. If I assign my students to say course A, that's what I've got open here. They'll by default see every single lesson, and it's not locked. So if they figure it out, they could click on whatever they want to do. Here's my teacher screen. You'll see how like these are all visible. If I don't want them to see it, I could click hidden. I usually go through and hide the unplugged activities because that's not really something that they would just get on and do without me anyway. That's something we would do together. So I usually go through and click hidden on the unplugged activities. Shelly and I did a coding club with 2nd grade last fall. It seems like 4,000 years ago. We went through and hid everything from the bottom up because we were doing it in coding club and we didn't want them. Those kids literally would go home and like do half of the lessons at home. So when we showed up to coding club the next week, like they had already worked through the next 2 weeks lessons, and we're like, what are we going to do with you guys? So we wanted, in that scenario, we wanted to work through together. So we went through and hid, see how I'm hiding everything. And then I would just make visible this very first lesson. And then next week, I'm going to make this one visible so that we can do this one together. So you can kind of do it that way, or you could leave it wide open if you want them to just be able to work at their own pace, whatever you want them to do. But if I'm introducing it, I'm starting at lesson 1. And again, it is really built in a particular sequence. So like, I love that in the kinder and first grade, it starts with these digital citizenship types of things. So it embeds that in there. Drag and drop. Before they can do much of the other things, they have to be able to drag and drop. So I would definitely work through them in that order. Just how you let them proceed from there is totally up to you. And there's not a right or wrong way to do it. It really just depends on what's your intent, how much time do you have? Is it just, we're going to introduce it and now they can pick it at free time? And sometimes that's the only time we have. So whatever works best for your classroom, there's not a right or wrong way to do that. Any other questions about that? And again, that was like the shortest, quickest little intro. If it's something that you're interested in, I would definitely recommend looking at those code.org trainings. I'm doing one next week, but it's a deep dive, which means it's intended for if you've already been using code.org in your classroom. But there's other facilitators teaching some this spring. And then I'm sure I'll do some this summer. If that's something that you're interested in, just check out that professional learning page on code.org. So we're going to shift over to the PBS Kids Scratch Junior. This is an app, and Nikki, I've never done, did I link to the right thing? So I've only used it on iPads, but if you have a newer Chromebook, you can get it from the Google Play Store, right? The Scratch Junior app.
Yeah, and it's one of the, it's a couple of years old that you can do that. So if you have a newer Chromebook or a Chromebook that's bought in the last 2 years and you download apps through Google Play, you can find the app there. But let me look at your link and see if that's the right one.
I've never used it before. I need to get my hands on a Chromebook so I can try.
I need a new one so I can. Mine is so old. Yeah, it looks like you've got the right thing. So
perfect. And I guess what I should mention, since we're talking about this being an app, code.org doesn't have an app, but it works great on a computer, Chromebook, or a tablet just through a browser. So you don't need a code.org app in order for your kids to use code.org. So the PBS Kids Scratch Junior, if you're familiar with Scratch Junior, it really is the same. The interface, I taught this to some distance learning first graders today. And after I went, they all were like looking at me like I had 3 heads when I was talking about coding. But then as soon as I showed it to them, they were like, oh, this is like Scratch Junior. Yes, it's exactly like Scratch Junior. So they had obviously done Scratch Junior before. The interface, how it works and everything is exactly the same. What's super fun about this is that it's built with PBS characters. It's got those PBS backgrounds. It's super engaging for our students. The second lesson in this series, and I'll show you these lessons here, is Wild Kratts, which I think is, it's just such a popular show. So when I go in, I introduce using the first lesson, which is Peg plus Cat. And then I tell them, okay, next time I come back, we're going to be doing this Wild Kratts. And they're like over the moon, so excited. They love Wild Kratts. So I think just those connections with those characters and those shows that they know is really powerful to them. I really like, similar to kind of how code.org's lessons are, I really like that there are these resources. And again, I just clicked right here, so you have the link to this. These resources here from PBS. So there are these scaffolded lessons. So again, I would start at the top. They build on each other from lesson to lesson. But I can click on this tree problem, and it has this whole really comprehensive lesson for me. It tells me what vocabulary I'm going to be using. If I don't know what this means, I can hover over it and it tells me what it means. If there's any particular materials I need, it tells me that. And then it just really breaks down and works through this lesson for me. So again, I can feel really confident teaching this because it shows me what to do. I love that it shows me these are the buttons or blocks you're going to be using today, and here's what they mean. So for me as a teacher, I know I could show this to the kids. They all have a little snippet of a PBS Kids show. So, you know, this one, we introduce the lesson, we talk for a little bit, and then they get to watch this little video. And then after watching the video, they get to apply it by then coding. You know, they're stuck in a tree. Now, how are we going to help them get out of the tree? And when they get into the app, they have all these same backgrounds, right? They can put peg and they can put cat and they can put this same little tree in there. So again, it's making those connections. I really like this because I feel like it's made me more intentional in how I'm teaching. I think this is such a great creative app for just letting them make things. But I feel like I was literally like handing them the iPad and being like, well, click around and make something, and not giving them any direction at all. So I feel like this has helped me be a lot more intentional in how I introduce this to them. And I have truly been blown away once you sort of give them that little bit and you've provided that sort of framework, then what they'll make and do and create, you know, kind of on their own after that. So I'm going to show you just a couple of examples, and then I'll kind of get into the app and show you. And then again, I'll pause and just give you a little bit of time. If you haven't already downloaded this, again, you do need the app, so you can download it for free onto your device so that you can play around with it a little bit here in a few minutes. This is a couple of examples shared via Seesaw. Can I click on that? Okay. I couldn't remember if I linked it or not. This little background here is just right out of the PBS Kids. So again, it was the second lesson, that Creature Powers one. There's a little handout. I just downloaded the handout and put that planning guide here into Seesaw. So they could do all of the planning of their project beforehand in Seesaw, and then they could make their project. I love how this has them really think through all of those aspects. You know, what animal are you going to use? What are you going to make that animal do? And then the second page here, they added in a little screenshot of what they created and then do a little bit of a reflection. And I had given them the option of typing, or they could just use the microphone and even just tell me, you know, what they wanted to do or what their reflection was. But I thought this was really fantastic to see those thought processes and what was hard for them. So again, you could just print these and let your kids write on them, but it was also super easy to pop that into Seesaw as well. I love that they can create and draw their own characters. So when we get into the app, I'll show you there's tons of stickers and things already in there, but if they don't see what they want, they can also draw their own. And again, just the creativity and what they make is just really, I just love looking at their little drawings and the things that they do. They're able to add text and dialogue into their creations, and even adding in some audio elements into their creations. So truly, for storytelling, I mean, this is just such an amazing tool, I think, to get our students telling stories. So I'm going to stop sharing this and just kind of open up the app itself here. Let's see. Try that again. There we go. Okay. So again, it's a free app. And what I'll say about this, you know, again, it has a set, I think there's 10 lessons. So you can still be really intentional. They're scaffolded. You could build with these. It's not the comprehensive curriculum that code.org is. You know, if I were in a classroom, code.org would probably be my curriculum. This would be sort of supplementing what I'm doing with code.org, or maybe here's how I'm going to introduce it to my young students, and then we're going to move into using code.org as sort of that, again, more comprehensive curriculum. So I just click on start, and I'm going to start a new project here. It always starts with dot here in the middle. So to get that character out, I just need to hold her down until she shakes, and then I can X out. And then their characters are over here. The very first time that we use this, and it's built right into that first lesson, they need a little exploration time. And so they get a little bit of time to just kind of come in here for just a few minutes, click around and see what it does before we then give them a really specific project. And I think that's a great rule of thumb with any tech tool. When we move right into wanting them to do exactly what we want them to do, it's difficult for them because they need to be able to kind of touch the things and scribble around and move the stuff around. And so just that playtime, I think, is really helpful. So playtime first. I'm going to pretend we're doing that pig and cat tree problem. And so I can come down here and you'll notice that I can put those characters into my creation here. So then I can come back in. Now I don't remember which one I actually grabbed. Let's see. Okay. So I've got them now both in my creation. If I'm trying to make something that we don't have, I was sort of experimenting with Easter ideas. And so I had just drawn this little Easter basket the other day and had been playing around with coding that little bunny to come over here and grab the Easter basket. So you can use that drawing tool to draw. I'm not going to demo for you. I should have grabbed one of those first graders drawings because they're fantastic. But you know, if they're in the creature one, if they're doing animals and they don't see the animal they want, they can just draw their own animal. And I love seeing their creations. Same with the backgrounds. I'm going to click on background. For that tree problem with pig and cat, I love that I can just grab that exact tree. So you looked for a second when I was showing you the lesson plans, you saw that little part of the video. You see that this looks, you know, just like it did in the video. So now I've got the background and I can put pig and cat up in that tree. And now my job is to figure out how we're going to get them out of the tree. But again, just that connection that they make when they see the video and they come here in the app and they're like, oh, the tree is right there. That's really super exciting to them. In order to actually code these characters, you'll kind of look at the bottom here and see I've got more than one character. So right now, if I started coding, I'm going to be coding pig. If I want to be coding cat, I tap on him. And now you'll notice that he is the one that's kind of highlighted down here. He's the one who's going to be going through those movements. The blocks across here, just real simply, we need a way to start. So to trigger, I usually use either the flag or the touch. So it's going to begin when I either touch the flag or touch this image here. So I'm just going to drag the flag. And then the idea here is that they build something to get pig and cat out of the tree. I think in the video it shows a ladder. So most of them then draw a ladder, right? You guys know how kids work. I was blown away. I was in Mrs. Peel's class at Beartooth, and we just spent a little bit more time on that, like just really brainstorming. They had helicopters flying in. They had like a water slide that came down the tree. I mean, they were coming up with such clever, creative ideas. And so again, it really became apparent to me that's on me as the teacher. If I just show them the video and then say, okay, you guys, I got a class full of ladders. If we spend a little bit of time brainstorming that and really speaking to that creativity part, I mean, I was blown away by what they'd make. So if they want to add in the rocket or whatever, that's going to be a character that they either find or draw over here. In the interest of just kind of being quick with the demo, you'll pretend I've drawn this fantastic ladder. So the idea now is that I'm going to code them down this ladder. So I'm going to just kind of go to my directions here. I would then probably drag, you know, what they're going to do to start with is probably just dragging these, right? Many times, which can then lead to a nice conversation about, oh, that's great. Instead of adding that many arrows, what could we do instead? And then some of them might notice that number 1 down there. Well, maybe instead of dragging that a bunch of times, we could just change that to 5 or whatever that number might be. I usually then test it. So I show them, okay, I'm going to click on the flag and let's see what happens. And we test it to see, oh, he got all the way to the bottom and did what we wanted him to do. I would then probably want to go through and I would click on Peg, and I would want to code her so that she would have that same movement. When you just kind of click through all of these buttons, you'll see some of the other things. And again, I like how if you're following those lessons, it shows you which sorts of things to introduce to the kids, rather than throwing it all at them at once. Like we didn't even look at these on that first lesson that we did. We didn't really look here. We just really focused on the yellow, you know, giving it a trigger, the directions. And then we talked about what these, you know, here at the end, what's the difference between this one and this one, and have those conversations about, do we want them to keep going up and down the tree in a loop over and over? Do we want it to just stop? And then when you move into the second lesson, it starts introducing some of these others. And then in the next lesson, we'll start talking about, you know, then we'll get into more of the repeats or grouping things together. Like it really is very nicely scaffolded to just show them little pieces at a time, so that you're just not inundating them with too much stuff all at once. I think the biggest challenge for me with creating in Scratch Junior or PBS Kids Scratch Junior is that there's not like a magic save button where I can save it to my iPad and share it easily wherever I want to share it. So really that's the biggest challenge for me, because they make such amazing things here. I don't want it to just live on this iPad where nobody gets to see it. I usually teach them a couple of things. I've been doing this with a lot of remote kids, and I've just been teaching them to take a screenshot, because trying to teach them how to do screen record remotely sort of makes my head hurt a little bit. So I usually just teach them to take a screenshot. They can take it just like this. So screenshot, you know, home key, power key, same time. And I usually demo that for them. So they see, like, did you see how it flashed like a picture and now it's there? Or if they click kind of that little box up here that I'm pointing to, it gets big. If they want to just show this part, they can just show that part. I actually kind of like it when they take all of this, even though it has extra stuff on it. I like that I can see the code that they built down here, especially because I can't see the movement. This is just a screenshot. So I kind of like that they show me the code so I can tell that they actually put some stuff on there. From here, I've got my screenshot. It's pretty easy to put into Seesaw now, right? Because it's a screenshot. Now I could open up Seesaw. Okay, I'm logged into somebody. I could click here. I'm going to upload it just like I do any other any other image on my camera roll. I'm going to grab it. I'm going to add it. Again, it's not going to show the movement because I've just done a screenshot. You could then have them use the microphone, tell about it. If you made an activity here, they could do it that way. If you use something other than Seesaw, Google Classroom or something, same thing, because now it's saved. You could go ahead and share it that way. If you're this really wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. I did teach some first graders how to screen record. The trick to the screen recording is, are any of you familiar? Do you know? I won't go into too much depth if you know. So do you use screen record like on an iPad or an iPhone? Okay. I think the
Yes.
tricky part about it is like it's not just natively there. So right here, I have the screen record option in my control center. But in order to get it there, I have to go into my settings. This is the part that's tricky. So we walked through and did this with the first graders, and they actually were able to, they always do blow me away. When I think it's going to be too much for them, they always blow me away. But I come into my settings and I go into the control center. And then I just need to be sure that the screen recording icon is turned on so that when I go into my control center, this is the part that's tricky because it's not going to be automatically on your students' iPads. You're going to have to teach them, or you go around and do this part and just put this part onto their iPads. Once that's on there, it's really easy peasy. So now what they could do, right, when I have my project here, now I teach them to screen record. I figured that wouldn't work. Come in here, turn on their screen recording, and then they play their project, and then they tap stop, and now it will basically record a little movie, so you actually do get to see that movement in the project, and then you could share that the same way. Upload to Seesaw, put on Google Classroom, save to your drive, whatever you're using to sort of share some of those projects, you could then share it where it needs to go. But to me, that's really the trickiest part with this app, is figuring out those ways to share, because I just think it's so essential that when they're making and creating these things, that they're able to share in some way. If you're in the classroom and you're wanting to just at least share with classmates, you could have them take turns, bring their iPad up to the projector, maybe, whatever you're using, Reflector or AirPlay or something, you could project and just take turns showing the projects. But once I taught those first graders how to actually screen record and put that onto Seesaw, man, they were pretty excited to actually see not just that little snapshot, but all of the movement and things that were happening as well. That was really pretty exciting for them. Okay, I'm gonna stop. I'll give you another minute or so, but while you're working, I'll just Amy just asked a good question, and it's kind of hiding. So I thought I would point out in the app, way up in this corner where there's that like yellow shape in the right corner, if you tap on it, you can rename a project. So I could call this PEG. It gives you the option of sharing by email or AirDrop. So I could, from my iPad, I could share this by email. Most of my kids, they're not connected to an email on their iPad, and I don't want to do that. So sharing by email isn't really an option. I could share it by AirDrop. Like if I wanted to go around and have all my kids just AirDrop this onto my device, and then I had it in one device and I could do with it what I wanted to do. But I think I can only open it. It's not sharing it as an image or a movie or anything. It's just going to open for me in my Scratch Junior. So then I could go through and do the screenshots or screen records or whatever if I wanted to. So you will see a couple of options here. They're kind of deceiving, but you can rename, which is kind of nice. When I go to my home page, you'll notice I just have lots of, project 1, 2, 3, 4. So you can do a little bit of renaming from there. One of the second graders I was working with too noticed that little light bulb up there. I'd never really showed them that. But there are these great little story starters in here. And it was kind of fun because then he watched these and played these and then wanted to figure out how they made that. And so then he started his own project and was playing around trying to replicate what he saw here in this little like ideas section. So that was kind of fun. So just that little light bulb there has, it says story starters, but it was really some kind of nice, ideas. And then it basically made them their own little template of that too. So then they could continue to add to those projects. Any thoughts or questions as you're working? We'll probably do prizes here pretty soon. Again, then you'll just kind of have a little chunk of time on your own, depending on which of those tools you're curious about, just to kind of dive in. Nikki and I are always available by email. If you're on Twitter, you can find us on Twitter. You can reach out as you're working and ask questions as well. But anything that came up as you're building right now? How many of you are thinking this is something you'll try before the end of the year? You can unmute or put like a thumbs up on your screen. Okay, so I'll be honest. I've never actually done this. Nikki, have you actually done, I've done code.org with kindergartners. I haven't done Scratch Junior with kindergartners. So I'm doing it for the first time on Thursday because I know Addison teaches kindergarten.
Yeah, I've done code or PBS Kids Scratch Junior with kinders. I've done it all the way up to kids with 5th grade, actually. But then kinders, we've just done that tree problem. But what I've had the teacher do, because my time was so limited, I had them show the video when I wasn't there and talk. It's about, I don't know, 11 or 12 minutes. And so I just gave them the tip. If you have snack time or something, watch the video during snack time, and then I'll refer to it when I come in and teach the lesson. And that saved me a little bit of time. But then I don't follow that lesson plan right to the 9s, but I demo it, I kind of show it. And I plugged the iPad into the TV or whatever was in the room and showed them how to do some things and definitely give them that play and explore time. And then I really set it up with, okay, now are you ready for a challenge? Who's ready for a challenge? Stuff like that. And then remind them of the video. And I might show like the last 20 seconds or so of the video to remind them that Pig and Cat are now stuck in this tree and they need to code them down. And then I don't know if Tracy showed you or not, but every lesson at the very end has a handout you can print to send home. And it has the language and the things that were talked about in the lesson. And I try to get teachers to send that home too, to kind of give them those talking points at dinner. Because my kids always just have amnesia after a school day and have no idea what they learned. And so it's nice to like pull that crumpled piece of paper out of a backpack and have something to talk to them about. So that's something you can do. And I never had a class for more than an hour. They definitely got through the entire lesson in under an hour, and usually they get done even faster. And then I'd let them play some more and really explore even more. So yeah, there's the little parent report. That's a really cool way for them. And then because the app is free, we encourage them to download it on whatever device they have at home. And this one, you need a lot of Wi-Fi to get it there, but then it doesn't require Wi-Fi to use. And so mom or dad or grandma and grandpa really like this because we don't have to have devices draining the home internet. And it's kind of one of those sandbox apps where once they know how it works, they can kind of put everything together and play with it all on their own.
Yeah. Yeah, so I taught this lesson today, and then I was able to send this parent message because I taught it to some first graders and remote. So of course the parents are watching everything that we do, and then they messaged and said this is too hard for their first graders. And so I was like, oh my goodness, I have to nip that in the bud. And so I agree with Nikki. I think it's super helpful to then send this parent information to them because it might be something unfamiliar to the parents too. So I really kind of explained what we were doing. And then I just took a screenshot of the handout from this PBS Kids page and dropped that into my parent announcement. So now the parents have that little flyer or handout just in Seesaw to kind of guide those questions. But I really wanted them to know that this app was made for our littles and that it's not too hard. They can definitely do it. So I think that parent communication piece is really important.
Mm-hmm.
And Addison said, so all of you BPS teachers, so this is sort of a off topic, but in order to get any apps to our remote kids, we basically have to push them out to every single iPad in the district because I'll just leave that there. A long story. But anyway, so every single iPad in the district now has PBS Kids Scratch Junior. So Addison said her kids are begging to play the new app that magically showed up on their iPads the other day. So sorry about that. But I was teaching this to all of the remote first grades. And so basically everybody had to get it. So maybe it'll encourage a few teachers and kids to give it a try. Any other thoughts or questions? There's not like a super easy way to share. So if you guys do something, Nikki and I, again, would love if your kids make something and you want to email, or if you're on Twitter, if you post it and tag us, we love seeing what you do and what your kids are doing. So please share with us or reach out with any questions.